in-game volume is so loud.
Ooh.
Volume.
I might have to tweak that too once I load in. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't understand how the volume works in TF2, because in order to make it like not brutally awful for me, I need to have it at 0.01.
Oof. Oh
What?
wow, that's loud. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's fix that.
Do I need to? I'm struggling not to mansplain everything about TF2 to you, but I know that you it's your game, or it used to be a game that you.
It used to be, but here's the thing. I stopped playing as soon as, wow, why is that so loud? Okay. It used to be, and then I've stopped playing right before the Love and War update, I think. And it has been some time. And that was before I think even they had a competitive option available.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
It's fine.
It's in no way disrespectful. It's warranted.
I'm trying to think when Love and War was. I mean, that's one of the earliest ones. I think the third year or something that it was available as a game.
Possibly.
Okay. All right. So, hello everybody. Welcome. My name is Agro. I am a human. As far as I'm aware. Hopefully. I'd only a human with
no aliens, please.
Yeah, please.
No gross ghosts.
I am joined today by somebody called or has the name DustyOldRoses, and the URL DustyOldRoses. But as an actual human being who makes money doing voice acting, I assume people don't necessarily know you as DustyOldRoses.
I'm Sandra Espinoza, and I once upon a time did a bunch of voiceover packs that I still get people asking me, "Are you ever going to finish those?" And I'm like, that's a question, all right. But it was, under DustyOldRoses, and it was a lot of fun, and I look on it fondly, even now.
So these are, I mean, this is sort of getting into the crux of like why you're here, why you're on this show. How dare you come into my show without good reason? Which is that you did female voiceover packs for female variations or variants of the TF2 characters.
I did.
Do you want to because they never made it into the game, and there's a lot of content that I think that gets created by fans of various skill levels that don't make it into the game. But it's frustrating for me because the level of quality of the models themselves was exceptionally high.
Oh yeah, no question. It was the artwork that went into the construction of the female spy was why I was inspired to even start that project. I found it on Chemical Alia's DeviantArt page, and I was like, this is such cool fan art. And then I learned, well, it's not just fan art. She's actually going to make this playable, like you could see it in your game. And at the time, I was a fresh, new youngin' in the TF2 scene. I was just like, that's astounding. How do you even do that? So I inquired, I'm a student in voiceover currently, and this sounds amazing. This is my favorite game, and I would love to help out with this if there needs to be some kind of audio aspect to it. So she was very receptive, and we just got to chatting, and that was the start of it. And I didn't think it'd go anywhere other than just, wow, look at this fun thing I got to be a part of.
So you weren't sort of banking on it or anything. This wasn't sort of to be your make it or break it moment in the world of like your career.
Oh no, I was just like, ooh, TF2 content. Ooh, I could make something like all these other people making TF2 content. I can like do something fun. And I was just, I was in school and I didn't have to worry about paying bills or anything yet. So I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have fun with that.
I mean, had you done any sort of voice acting up till that moment, or was this the first thing you got involved in, or?
Nothing professional. It was the first thing I had done. First thing I had done just to show off some of what I had learned. And I should probably. It was the first thing I had done just to show off what I had learned. And it was probably the largest scale project I had ever done. Before that, I think the earliest thing was me trying to do a female medic voice on my YouTube channel, which until then had just been to share videos from conventions and other things with family and friends. And it never was meant to be like what is now called a content creator. Like that wasn't the idea. It was just, hey, I can do this thing and it's fun and cool.
So did this give you the sense that it was going to be something you could make a career from? I mean, was this the step that got you into doing it as an actual job?
I had been trying to aim to make it my job. Prior to that, I was in classes. I had been saving up from my part-time jobs to attend more classes in voiceover and acting. In New York, I was going after my part-time job. I was going after my university classes. So the intention was, well, maybe someday in the distant wherever, whenever that may be, I will. I'll go and I'll plug in the time and it'll happen one day. I wasn't hoping like, oh, let it be tomorrow, please. I can't live this horrible life of a university student any longer. I'm so sick of this. I want to be a star. No, I was just like, well, it'll happen when it happens. I'm just learning right now.
I mean, that's a really healthy sort of way of living your life. To not have to like be dependent on your dream coming true.
Oh, absolutely. It was refreshing, I guess. There's no pressure, not as much pressure anyway, when you're just like, well, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. It's not like everything on the planet is riding on this, so that was nice.
Presumably that's because you were studying something else.
Oh yes, I was an English major with the intention of follied intention of going into publishing at the time,
right.
And that didn't do so fabulously for that industry. But I figured, well, you can do anything with English, really. If I felt like it, I could probably work on a novel. I could, I was also interested to some extent in law. And
Right.
I was figuring, well, paralegal, all that requires knowing how to write and read. I mean, everything in life should have some aspect of reading and writing to it. So it just felt like a safe bet. Whoop! Okay. Well, you know what?
So presumably the whoop was from you playing TF2. It was opposed to some rapid realization that your world has gone wrong.
No, that was me getting a crit right to the face. That was
nice.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Speaking of crits right to the face, my Chrome has decided to die. So I have no idea if this is still streaming.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do about that. Let me see if I can launch another Chrome window. If there's anybody, I can't even see chat. Chat has died on me as well. This is a worst case scenario for me. So apologies to anyone who might be watching this at the moment, going, "No, it's fine. Don't touch anything. Leave it." I'm gonna try and fiddle with a few things and see if I can bring something back to life.
Sure. Gives me time to get acquainted with these controls again. I keep hitting my reload like I don't already have that set to something else.
No, it's not that. That seems to be fine. Wow. Oh my goodness me, my Chrome. How many windows do I have open? That's far too many. That's not good.
Oh boy. Chrome is just so notorious for eating up everything in its path.
It's been fine up to this moment, and then all of a sudden, doom!
Very cool.
Okay, OBS Studio. TF2 is taking up 2 gigabytes of data? What?
No way.
That's not right.
In what day and age?
Yeah, no, well, TF2 has not aged well.
You know, I'm picking up Soldier again. I have over 300 hours, and I'm just like, were the rockets always this slow? And was I always this slow? And I'm just a mess.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to close Chrome, and if this kills the feed, then this was a short and fun stream. We will be back.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Sit still. We'll be right back as soon as Chrome relives. So frustrating. There's nothing I can do but kill it.
All right, there was a quick switch button. Awesome.
Yeah, it's press Q to quick switch as opposed to
Right.
the other game where you press Q and win instantly. Okay.
Why do I have the shotgun equipped? Why did I stop playing this game with the shotgun equipped?
Right.
Ooh, okay, that is new.
Okay. Right, it says we're live.
Cool. Oh, okay. Didn't duck in.
Right, did it go offline at any time? This is why I love having a chat, because they can tell us things that we'd have no other way of knowing.
Yay, hi, Chad.
We've got How9000 Eyes in chat saying, can you ask her to do Scout's Ma, reciting that monologue from Hereditary.
You mean my favorite character in TF2? Yes.
Oh my god, Scout's mother. I never even thought that that was a thing.
Oh,
But-
absolutely. That was another thing that I was doing a lot of voice exercises for. And if anything, it was infinitely more fun because I wasn't restricted to, well, will this be loud enough to hear in game? Will this match the cadence of when this is set in such and such a moment during whatever? Boop, boop. Okay. He died. Good for him.
Okay, I'm getting my screens back in now, so I think I know what's... I don't necessarily know what went wrong.
All right, so I could probably check the chat myself on your YouTube, correct?
Yes, theoretically, that is a thing you can do.
Let me, I forgot I had a mobile device at my disposal.
I also forgot that I had a mobile device at my disposal. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so carefully planned for today. We've had like months. I literally asked you months ago whether or not you'd be willing to come in and do this. And to my great satisfaction, you said yes.
Absolutely.
So I had months to prepare for this, and then when it actually chooses to go live, everything falls down and crashes.
The
and
best
burns
laid
around.
plans of mice and men.
Exactly. All right. Well, I do have a beer, which is the other planning that I made. It's another brew dog. It's called Dead Pony Club. If anyone's drinking along at home.
I wish it were late enough for me to drink. I have some Angry Orchards in the fridge.
Angry Orchards. Is that cider?
Yeah. It's, an apple cider.
Nice.
That is so weird. The travel time on these projectiles is so weird to me now. This used to be second nature.
I was told when I was in Mexico that only old ladies and ill people drink cider, so...
I'm both.
You're not.
I am. Oh, glad to see I'm not totally useless in this game. Okay. As long as I don't pick up anything that doesn't require precise... Ah! Okay.
I love these though. I mean, it's such a stupid concept because people they're not focused on the conversation. They're focused on the game. But there's no way that watching, you would know whether or not someone's focused until they're clearly not. And what should have been an easy question gets the longest pause.
It's an ingenious way of interviewing. It reminds me a lot of like Hot Pepper Gaming, where it's just like, just give this give this game a review. It'll be simple. It'll be easy. It's like, nope, not when you have a mouthful of habaneros.
Nice.
Oh.
Ooh, I'm alive. How did I live? That's unexpected. Oh, they had a medic. You had a medic. Wait, was that you that killed me?
Wait, oh, you're on the other.
I'm on the other team.
When did you get on red?
That was when I was trying to fix things. It all went
Oh
wrong.
dear, I'm sorry.
Alright, it's been a while since you played Team Fortress 2,
Yeah.
but you're good at it. Or you were good at it before you left.
Ah, good is so.
Did
Good
you
is
ever
such a weird word.
Did you ever compete, or did you ever do anything sort of that would establish your capabilities?
Oh heavens, no! That wasn't even. I think I mentioned it before the stream started. When I stopped playing was actually before they even implemented a competitive mode. I think,
Oh yeah, I mean,
or rather, one proper. But even before that, if there were like the competitive scene of people. Oh right. Oh, we get to vote for. This is such a luxury. We get to vote for maps.
yeah. This is like the old school version where it was all sort of community focused.
Yeah.
I love creators.tf. If there's anyone from creators.tf here or listening to this later, you guys have done an amazing job. So, GG.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, never. Oh, jeez. Never crossed my mind. I was actually introduced to this game by my then friend, and then became my my boyfriend, and then is now my husband in university. Because I was mostly about console fighters, and again, not in a competitive sense. I'm not typically a competitive person when it comes to things that people usually do for leisure. I don't have the dedication in me,
Yep.
but even then, it was just like, wow, this is so fun. And I wouldn't even play with, obviously I would join random games, but there came a time after about a year and a half of playing or more where we formed a group of friends that we could generally trust to have great games with, and then we had our own server where I think after I was on Crit's Cast the first time with you guys, and after that was done, you guys were invited over to our server, and it was just such a strange concept where nobody was allowed to cap the intel. It wasn't that kind of server. It was just a bullshit server where people ran around and spread memes and killed each other. It was basically just a big glorified deathmatch map. So that's the farthest I ever got. And then once that server sadly had to close, that's sort of where I lost my interest, only because I had weaved this game so intimately with playing with friends, and specifically those friends. It kind of lost some of that bloom for me. I was just like, well, there's nothing. Yeah, there's my husband playing it still, and that's something, but it's simply not the same as like the community feel that you get when you're playing with a team that you've kind of like played with all
When
this
you've
time.
grown up with them and expect to have it's not necessarily the game that's the pull, and you could have been doing anything. You've been playing Scrabble for all it mattered.
Basically.
And in fact, you did end up playing Scrabble because you went on to the game that shall not be named. So.
Yes, that might make me seem like, oh, I love this. Oh, yeah. I mean, it might make me seem sort of a traitor or what have you, but I just kind of viewed it as, I don't know. There was this brand new shiny game, and I was like, I was kind of grandfathered into every game, or not grandfathered. I was introduced at a very late stage into any game that I had ever gotten hugely fanatical about. So now there was this brand new thing. I was set to join on the front, basically the premiere of it, and I'm like, well, why not make this mine in some way?
Yep.
So something about it being brand new definitely helped my perception of it.
Yeah, I mean that's not necessarily like unique. It's one of those things where if you are, oh, somebody's killed me, you bastard. If best conversation ever. If you have been, if you don't get to a game when it's new, you always feel like you're kind of a second-class citizen. Like it's very difficult to make it your game. But then if you're introduced to like an entirely new genre of gaming, and then a new game comes out that is similar to the thing that you currently love, it's your chance to make it your game, and you get to be like the first, the person who owns that experience, and everyone else is just a newbie coming in.
Yeah, basically. And I kind of feel that now, even like 5 years, almost 5 years later, after Overwatch was a thing, and I've been playing so much since it did start up.
I think I'm chasing you at the moment. I don't know where you've gone to. Oh, you died.
I
Damn it.
died. I was trying to be a hero. I'm just gonna check my controls real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I've been hardwired into Overwatch, simply because it was new at the time. It reminded me so much of TF2, but with more polish.
Yeah.
And it was not to shit on TF2 at all. It wasn't like I was miserable in TF2. I have like over 2,000, I think it's 2,100 or 2,400 hours in this game. I liked it well enough.
I mean, that's a good number of hours.
Squeezed into, I think I only played for about 3 years or so.
Okay.
It's not that I didn't like this game. I was like, well, finally I can get away from the evils of TF2. It was just like...
I didn't want to say anything, but actually that's kind of like on the nose.
But I know that's the reason why a lot of people migrated, where it was just like, well, I'm just not getting something out of TF2. I was just like, hey, this is neat. And then you gain, like you said, you gain a mastery over it. You were at the ground floor, and you kind of grow along with it. So that's sort of why I became so invested. And I simply forgot. I mean, it's... I only have the attention span to be a fan of so many things at once. I'm not like some people who just like, oh, I love all of these games and I can just go forever with all these different things. I have my limits, so I guess my mental capacity for TF2 just sort of got absorbed with Overwatch. But I still managed with Left 4 Dead, though. That I feel like eventually I started longing for the old days, and Left 4 Dead was another game I just went so hard into.
Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2?
I guess I just use them interchangeably now because Left 4 Dead 2 did come with Left 4 Dead 1, so Left 4 Dead 2 technically. But I've played through all of the campaign between the two. And I did a lot of verses with Left 4 Dead 2, and I guess that's where a lot of my attention went to when it wasn't Overwatch, and then some console games, indie games.
Okay, so you're definitely, you were a gamer, you are a gamer now. Do you sorry that I made a massive assumption, because like the Left 4 Dead 1/2 was now sort of 8 years ago, or certainly a long time ago. Are you still a gamer? Do you still identify yourself in terms of like the hobby that you do, and is it gaming? Or has being married now transitioned you into being like a rabbit owner or a pastry chef person? I don't know what people do in their spare time when they're not gaming.
Wow. No, I would say that we're a gaming family now. You simply took two gamers and you got them married, and they'll probably have a gamer baby eventually.
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. Let's see where it goes.
But yeah, no, I still identify as a gamer. The types of games I play tend not to stay uniform for any long amount of time. I tend to just have varied interests. I can't say like, oh yeah, I'm a console gamer, or like, oh, I mean, generally, yeah, I tend to lean towards FPSs. But I guess the answer is yes, but what kind of gamer I am, I think varies. Like, most people, I'm sure, would call me casual because, oh, well, you don't do shit competitively. You don't spend X amount of hours of your life to it. And I'm like, yeah, but only because, I have people to take care of. You become an adult, and your parents get elderly. You got to take care of them. You get married. You got to take care of that family you're building.
So the implication suddenly that you need to take care of everyone because you're older and they They're older,
Yeah,
or
I mean, well, in a sense, yeah. What? What? Don't. Okay.
I don't know if you're don'ting me then, or
Oh
oh
no. Sorry. Sometimes I get
no,
a
it's
little
fine.
excitable. Whoop. Yeah. I mean, but yes, I still identify as a gamer. Just what amount of gaming I do definitely varies. Oh, yeah. No.
Oh no! Get away from me! There we go. Survived it. The dreaded trimping demo man. Oh no! Trimping demo man with incredibly long reach killed me.
Whoop.
So, I mean, do you
Hello.
you're a gamer with a family, or at least a husband? Is small um is small gamer on the way, or is that
Oh
a glimmer in
God, I
your?
hope not. The stress. God, I certainly hope not. Okay, I'm clearly not a medic. Let's. No.
No,
That's the way
no,
that
okay.
the state of the world right now. I don't think that's coming for a little bit, but it's definitely on the
On the agenda.
checklist.
Oh no, got destroyed by a medic and a soldier. The Taint Man. Unfortunate name.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right? Didn't see any of that coming.
Taintman.
Let's hope that it wasn't his mother that named him. Or
John Taintman.
That's Mr. Taintman to you.
Let's try this. I have not.
That's,
Contrary to how popular the female scout pack was, I am very limited in my scout play from when I was playing this game. Let's see.
yeah, my focus is right on gaming at the moment. I'm not
yeah.
doing this right. Oh, come on. That's not cool. That's not cool. Okay, so you're somewhat accomplished at this point. I was going through your website and your about page, and then I thought I'd click on your resume and see sort of what you've been up to, and it's quite a few things. You are the voice for a lot of characters in games, in adverts, any films, or is that
There have been some brief
forays?
indie, yeah, like nothing that, like things like I had film friends who were doing projects for their portfolios and stuff of that nature, but no, mostly adverts, because I'm in New York, and actually you'll know from anyone can tell you that a lot of the entertainment is in California,
Right.
when it comes to video games and cartoons, and animation of that sort. In New York, it's a lot more business oriented, a lot more adverts, a lot more like phone services and day-to-day voiceover. A lot of it is everywhere, but if you're in New York, that's what you can count on getting more so than, oh yeah, a new cartoon or a new anime. Although we do have an anime dubbing studio here, so there's that. And I found that the majority of my work is when it's not in advertising, which actually isn't a whole lot. The bulk of my work is in indie games and not any triple A stuff yet, but
Yeah.
I'm taking my time.
Well, I think the biggest game, to use loose terms, that I could see was it Brawl or something? Brawl Stars?
Yeah, Brawl Stars. It's a fun mobile game that from Supercell, the creators of Clash of Clans. So all those cool, cute little Hog Rider commercials for that little game. Actually, wildly popular with people who love mobile games, and
Yep.
they made a Supercell's way of doing things tends to be, let's make a bunch of games in beta. Let's just throw stuff on. Ooh, didn't even. Wow, he's all the way over there.
Come on,
um, yeah, let's just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall
Yep.
and see what sticks.
Yep.
So not all the games usually make it, but any games that tend to do very, very well, they're like, okay, let's pursue this. Let's pour some advertising into it. Let's make it available in Canada. Let's make it available in the UK, and now let's finally make it global or what have you.
Yeah.
And that was exactly how Brawl Stars came about. It was pitched to me as, well, we just need this spunky tomboy character for a mobile game. And nope, I fell. We need this spunky tomboy character, and also they have like a Spanish accent.
Yeah.
And I was a Latino talent, so they're just like, we need some authenticity, but also we need energy, and she's spunky. So I was like, okay, cool. What is this for? And they're like, oh, we're not sure. This is going to be an alpha. We're not sure if it'll even make it past it. It's just like a tester, but if it does, it does. And so we did a contract for that, and like a full, I don't even know how long later, maybe a whole year and a half, I was getting emails that, hey, guess what? It did really well. So
Oh shit.
You're the voice of the starter character. So you know how like in some games you get that introductory character, like I'm assuming in the training mode for this, you get Soldier, I think at first, or I'm pretty sure anyway, because it's a nice rounded character. You're playing the nice rounded character we start people off with in the tutorial, and one of the face characters, really. Because
So basically, everyone's heard your voice in that game. It's kind of like the go-to from this. Like it's not one of those characters that you have to sort of work your way up to, and only people with wallets can afford to play it.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. It's definitely an accessible sort of game. One of those games where it's easy to pick up but really hard to master, because it's meant to be played on the train and while you're on your way to work. But there's a huge competitive scene for it now, and the fandom is just so awesome because they make tons of art, tons of projects, and I'm just always so proud to see new content for them. It became so much bigger than I ever thought it would be.
Do you find
Why
yourself?
do I have this equipped?
I don't know. What is it you got equipped?
Oh God, I forget. I don't even know what this is anymore. Oh, sorry.
Do you find yourself doing or playing the role of, like, on your Twitter, on your I don't know what you use as social networks, but almost playing the role of the PR person, effectively working through like almost selling the character to new players, or selling the game to new people.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're freelance, you're doing all these jobs for yourself. You definitely have to treat it like it's like you're a startup. You're your own business, and you're your own boss. PR agency, ad agency, all that stuff. So basically, yeah, I take a lot of joy out of it because I love introducing people to these new games that maybe they haven't heard of, and it's kind of fun to see that blossom into, I actually ended up liking it and you're in it, so that's awesome. And that's always like feels good on your I was gonna say conscience, but it's more like it feels validating.
Yeah. I mean, do you get a financial reward for having more people play it? Is it a sort of, the number of people who have downloaded this exceeds 3 million, so now you get a bonus, or is it just through the validation of seeing of seeing people appreciating your work as if it were for the first time?
Well, the first part of that answer is not necessarily. I mean, sometimes depending on what exactly the contract was, you'll basically agree to either a buyout or a license. So either the project or whatever makes whatever amount of money, doesn't matter how successful it is, you agreed to work for X, and No matter what happens after that, that was the buyout. So it's not like you're going to come back and start suddenly asking for, oh, well, it's suddenly a really popular thing, so I should get more.
Yeah.
But that's decided on beforehand. And then the second thing is like licensing, where, well, you know, you can use this for so many years or what have you.
Okay.
But and then if you want to keep using it, you got to come back to me, and we got to negotiate a new contract. We got to talk about new rates. How is it done? What do we think it's worth now? Things like that. But in general, I tend to just do the one-time deal, and it varies, of course. But I'm usually just in it for, hey, this was fun. I had fun with it, and I was able to pay my bills this month. So
Yeah, I get to live again.
yeah,
Another
no hard
month.
feelings if suddenly I'm super famous or vicariously famous, and all I have to show for it, I get to say that, hey, I'm in X, and you know, or this or such a thing, and that's just fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, presumably being in a successful thing, even though you probably gave it as much of your all as the unsuccessful thing, but being in a successful thing is good for your brand.
Exactly. So like it's a nice little bump, but every project should be approached, whether no matter the budget, it needs to be approached with that same emphasis of like, well, this could be somebody's life-changing game,
Yeah.
life-changing movie or what have you. So why not go at it with 110%?
Well, I mean, this could be somebody's first or their introduction to a thing that they didn't
Exactly.
necessarily believe that they were going to love.
Exactly. So, you know, that's the fulfilling part of it for me, is seeing people enjoy the thing. I love it. I live for it. Same thing when I was doing these mods. I was just like, oh, wow, people actually wanted this, and they're receiving it very well. What more could I ask for, really?
Okay, I've died now. I can focus on the conversation again. Um, are you disappointed at all that the mods never made it into TF2?
No. It was, I never thought, I never imagined, whoa, okay. I never imagined that it would. I kind of figured, well, this is a fan project, sort of like when somebody makes fan art. And at the time, I wasn't aware of, I mean, I think it was concurrently that the design for the announcer was received so well by the fan art that was made for it, that it was actually adopted into the game. But even though that was a thing, I never thought, well, this is just
Yeah, we've
voice.
made it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I was taught, this is my fault. Whoop. At the same time, I was like, well, you know, there's a possibility. I mean, who can say? Hopefully, they've seen me, they've heard me.
Yeah.
That could be good for us. And they've seen and heard our Chemical Alia's work, so who knows? And eventually, there was correspondence between them and Alia, and then them and me.
Yeah.
About the project itself, because they wanted to put it on the blog. So
Okay. All right. Yeah. So they were definitely aware of it then.
yeah, they which was awesome. I was just flabbergasted. And then in the correspondence, which I think is just almost 9 years ago now. So who knows who's still working at Valve and who was actually speaking to me or what have you, and how far along anything was. But I know for a fact it was before Portal 2 came out. They were working on Portal 2, because it actually came up in the conversation that they were having with me.
Right.
And I was just like, well, you know, this is a very interesting thing, and it's an idea that would be fun to work with, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, and there's a lot of testing. There's a lot of you know, different situations we'd have to see. Well, what about hitboxes? What about integration into an already very old, I think at the time it was maybe 5 years old or less, 4 years old, but basically they had been around so long that how would new models be received?
Yeah.
How would they be awarded? How would they be integrated? All that kind of stuff. And essentially the conversation was, there are no promises, but this is something that would be interesting, was essentially the conversation. Not a very non-answer of not a yes, not a no, but just, this was a very interesting thing you guys did. And, you know, it was featured on the blog, which was good enough for me anyway at the time. But looking back on it, I was just like, well, if anyone really wanted to, I'm sure the effort could have been made. But
Yeah.
I would never think that it would be me or anything I made. I would just think that the concept itself of female characters in the game would have been fine. I mean,
Yeah.
make them as blobby shaped as the men are, and call it a day. Um,
I,
but then we're talking like almost a decade ago, where people were still uncomfortable with
I genuinely don't know. I think there's certainly an assumption that they're like you could assume that there being female characters wouldn't fit with the canon of the game. But then, as the game itself did not have a canon when it launched, it effectively it was a result of it wasn't until the comics came out that the game actually had a canon. There was no lore. It was all just a game. Like, just enjoy the game, have fun with it, and then they started to bolt things on.
Yeah, like the lore that has a giant eyeball creature being summoned.
That lore. Yeah.
Well, that lore where it's just totally implausible that females would be in the military, but also there's the ghost of a dead space monkey floating around.
And you know, there's like, Poopy Joe. Oh, don't talk to me about Poopy Joe.
Oh no, it's too soon for Poopy Joe.
Too soon for Poopy Joe. Poopy, as his mates called him, around the pub. Or PJ. Yeah, no, I mean, there's no logical reason why the characters couldn't have appeared in the game itself, and I think that one of the things that Chemical Alia did when she built the characters up was she deliberately built them to have the same height and the same dimension, so the hitboxes would be could be carried over without Valve having to do additional work.
Exactly.
But I think it almost certainly came or would have come down to there not being enough
resources, I guess.
Yeah, resources within the engine itself to enable additional characters. And it being, as you say, at that time, a fairly old game, which I guess that even at 5 years of release time would have probably translated into about sort of 20 years of development time.
Oh yeah, definitely. It wasn't just something to just hop into, and that I totally understood. But no, I was never like, oh boo, why don't they put female characters in the game, and why don't they contact me? I was still a student. I didn't have a single professional. Wait, did I at that time? I think I had one professional credit under my name at the time, and that was for an indie game by Wajidai Games called Resonance. But I certainly wasn't considering that, but it was a nice dream.
Did you have any uncredited works? Because this, surely it's a bit of an ask. Oh, that was deliberate. I was definitely meant to get that kill. Not a absolutely, definitely not a complete fluke. Yeah. Did you have anything? Had you worked on anything at this point, other than TF2 characters?
At that point, all the way back then, no. I mean, there was a couple for fun projects that maybe are still out there somewhere. I don't even know how I would begin to find them, if they're even still in existence on the internet.
Yeah, I spent today removing dead links from our website, so I think a lot of stuff that existed many years ago has ceased to exist, and websites have just died, which is very depressing.
Yeah, it's just crazy how even the internet isn't forever.
Who'd have thought even the internet isn't forever? You heard it here first. I just fell off a cliff and died. I can't believe I did that. It's so stupid.
I mean, you're also having a conversation. It's fine.
Yeah, obviously split. At least I'm not trying to drive a car. I am drinking as well to kind of throw everything into the mix.
Whoa.
I know. It suddenly got real. So with the TF2 stuff to one side, is there? Have you worked on other projects and not had them release, or not had them not had your voice used, or is there an elephant's graveyard of your voice work somewhere?
Oh gosh. Doing voiceover in general, there can be lots of things where you just fire it off into the void,
Yep.
and you don't know if anyone will even use it, and if it'll actually be a thing to anybody. But you do it anyway, and slowly but surely, you find out eventually whether or not it became a thing because you hear about it. But I don't go around holding my breath. So possibly, I know there's plenty of auditions that I've done, and they told me it was for whatever, and I'm like, okay, fine, that's okay. If I never watch it, that's whatever. Those are usually advertisements for things, though. When it's a game or anything animated, I try my best to keep tabs of it, and because I
Yeah.
want it for my reel and I want to show
Yeah.
off to other people and hey, here's a thing I did, maybe you'd be interested in it. Less so with advertisers because I'm just like, well, I do need that for a professional reel. When it comes to a commercial voiceover track, but I'm not going to be hurting if I never find out that they finally use that voiceover I did for a renal diet plan.
Yeah.
Like that one can stay hidden for all I care. It's not a huge deal.
You're never going to add that to your reel, to your
Yeah. Well, yeah, unless
moments
it's
of
people
glory.
need that.
So I mean, what's the thing that you've? Has there been anything that you put everything into and desperately you saw the vision but nobody else did, was never actually turned into a real product? Your biggest regret
Oh,
in terms of content created.
geez. There are plenty of projects I think that I feel like could have gotten more notice, and maybe it one of my first video games, excuse me, one of the first video games I ever did that was a little bit longer than my brief indie role. Oh, I didn't even see him in Resonance for Wajidai was Supreme League of Patriots. It was another indie game by a UK developer that was basically, it would hit home now because of the Trumpian era of things, but it was essentially about very Seth MacFarlane-esque kind of situation where a character becomes like this huge personification of everything good and right with America. It's sort of like a prototype to the American Dad, that cartoon.
Right.
But he's a superhero, and he was the Purple Patriot. And I was essentially, that was one of my biggest roles at the time when I was first starting. I was in all three installations of the game because it was an episodic game.
Oh well. Okay.
And it was huge. I was so happy about it. And that was a lot of lines because I was featured in all three episodes, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And also it was fun, and the character's great. She's a strong and she's a strong-willed Hispanic woman. She's Peruvian. I can relate to her. She's doing her best to make it in the world and has it all botched by this idiot. It was something not only I related to, but I also thought was hilarious. And for point and click adventures, it was a fun game, and I was actually, it was one of my first times being in it. Excuse me. It was my first time being in the same game with people like Kira Buckland, who is huge in the voiceover community, and Lucas Shineman, who I had known was doing. I had forgotten. I think it was. Oh my God! It's not League of Legends, but I forget the name of the game. I'm so bad. But I was just excited because I was with other actually professional voice actors, and at the time I was just like, I'm lucky enough to just get this job and say that I work.
Yeah.
But even now, it still hasn't really. It goes on sale every now and again, and I did so much work for that one. In terms of
So
voice.
it does exist. It hasn't sort of been wiped off the
Oh no, yeah,
off the
it's
clouds.
not. Yeah, no. If
but
I
it's
guess
not.
you can't call it a regret, but
Yeah.
I regret that it hasn't gotten more recognition, but it's still out there to be played. But it was years and years ago. So at the time, it was sort of a regret of just like, oh, well, not a whole bunch of people are playing this, and that's a shame. I worked so hard. But, you know, it is what it is.
I was just playing a playthrough of the game in a separate window, and yeah, very much point and clicky is a fair estimate of it.
Yeah. But no, I generally don't have anything that I did a voice for and regretted. I guess is because that's a strong word. I'm like,
Yeah.
I never felt like I shamed like that it came out. I thought it was one thing and it ended up coming out, and I was like, holy crap, what did I get myself involved in? Or like, oh god, I hope nobody sees that.
Yeah, it wasn't perhaps meant to be such a strong word, but as soon as you said it, I felt the regret in it. So I guess that's the voice actor in you working overtime.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh.
Also, I could just be distracted at the fact that I'm trying slowly but surely to get reacclimated to this game.
It's
I feel like if I actually turned up the game volume,
become one with the game again.
No. Actually, I feel like if I actually turned up the game volume, I'd be hearing a whole bunch of people yelling at us, and I'm kind of not about that life right this second.
I've definitely turned down the in-game conversation thing, which I think I miss out on sometimes. Sometimes people can be brilliant, but having it completely disabled means that you never have to find out firsthand whether or not people are being horrid to you or being wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume everybody's being wonderful all the time, and that way I can never be disappointed.
Yeah, sometimes it's not worth the stress.
I think we're losing. What's going on with? Oof.
Well, I'm here, so that's why. Doesn't help.
Oh, getting the kills in feels good. They've only got I think 4 minutes left to cap, and we're right on top of our game.
And then disaster struck.
Yeah, and then disaster. Oof. Oof.
Oh, that is a... I have not seen that gun before. Okay. But I guess this is kind of a role reversal. How have you guys been doing? I feel like it's the courteous thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, Quizcaster's changed. For one thing, it's just me now on my own in terms of the podcast stuff. Yeah, Tempest changed physically, and as a reaction to that, his entire life changed, and he's now living and working in Russia.
Really?
I think living his dream, living his best life, as they say.
Oh, good.
And he's Kronos has gone and got married, and he's now living a different life entirely from the one that he had when he was doing Team Fortress 2 things. Trying to think, Boobies. I don't know if you ever met Boobies.
I definitely remember hearing that name thrown around.
It is an epic
during
name.
my interview. Like,
Yeah.
Boobies.
Everybody loves Boobies.
Of course.
He's a lovely guy for an Australian. Get those in there.
Okay.
To be honest, I haven't actually spoken to Boobies for a long time, so I don't actually know what he's been up to or what he's currently up to. Yeah, let's see if there's anyone else. Who am I missing here? No, that's Rusky Doo and...
Oh, that's another name I remember. Sorry, it seems so rude to be like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another human. Yeah, Rusky Doo and Sir Grey went off to start a podcast based on the game that shall not be named.
Oh, I see.
I don't think that kind of worked out for them the way they were expecting it to, but they haven't returned to Team Fortress 2, so I guess they themselves also have very distinct and interesting lives. So congratulations to them for being like real humans and not being utterly dependent on this game for their own self-gratification. But no, Critscast has changed into being much more esports related. So we're doing the professional TF2 esports content.
Well, that's great. I love seeing people covering it because I do still follow a lot of what former and some still current TF2 content creators, and it makes me happy to see that such a game. I'm not going to call. I feel like saying such an old game has a negative connotation to it, but such a well-established game and really at its core a simple game.
Yeah.
At its core, anyway. I'm sure you can start getting very, very technical and very skilled, but that it can still thrive after so many years.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things about TF2 that it has such a high skill ceiling that an almost unreachable skill ceiling that if you wanted to, you could derive a great deal of pleasure from it and take it to places that other games that are more sort of press Q to win, shall we say, have a much more defined skill ceiling, and will struggle to be as distinct after a much shorter period.
Oh yeah, definitely. The lifespan. I think even currently games like the one that shall not be named are already struggling to have a lifespan worth talking about. Meanwhile, people are still active here. People are still going strong, and they're still making great things for it. I watch a lot of with my husband. We sometimes kick back and watch a lot of Lazy Purple, and I still follow Uberchain, and I love her artwork and her input for the competitive scene and her work for the Tip of the Hats and everyone else who's involved in that. And I always feel like, well, I wish I could still feel the way I used to feel about this game, where I'd have the drive to contribute in that respect, other than just donations. But it still feels good, like when you see your family, to put it in a very corny way, maybe a really schmaltzy way. It's like seeing your family graduate or your family go through a big
absolutely.
life event. You're like, yay! I know them.
Awesome. I mean, how much of, because you said you sort of had a bunch of friends and they moved on to different games. Did any of the TF2 crowd that you know, with the exception of possibly of your husband, did any of the TF2 crowd sort of move over to other games with you? Do you still sort of, is there a sense of owned TF2? Oh, the game's just crashed for me. That's great. Is there a sense of owned sort of TF2 nostalgia within your circle of friends?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. People still, even now, if I were to tell somebody right now, text them or something and say oh, I'm playing TF2 right now, they'd probably be like, oh my God, such a good game. But, all the nostalgia, but, life, I gotta do this job, or I gotta, play this thing for whatever content I'm making for this or whatever. But it's always remembered fondly. I don't think I've ever. Okay, well, if you're not in it, I'm not sticking around.
No, I've stayed. I've rejoined.
Oh wait, have you? Oh
yeah.
All right. Well,
it's making me download a game though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll wait to see. Or maybe if I just.
Yeah, classic.
But yeah, definitely. There's definitely a sense of unity, of camaraderie that goes along with that. Even if they're owning different games, playing different games, it hasn't stopped them from still thinking about it in a very. Oh, this is a. I have never been on this map.
No, this is
That's
unique
fun.
to this group.
It's beautiful. And I fell on a bunch of gears, but I'm feeling good about it.
Those are the death kills. Death gears.
Oh my God, I could just ride this the whole time and piss everybody on our team off. Whee!
You found a way of playing without playing now.
Whee! Yep, that's how you keep games fun.
Fun for you, maybe.
Sorry. Well, you're on the opposite team. I'm helping you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be of any use here. Ooh, but what will be will be. Ooh, okay. That's not. I keep pressing E, and I don't mean to. That's so rude of me to
Oh,
be
this is.
spamming for medic. How uncivilized.
I just realised this is the slaughter map. This is the one where it's in a meat factory.
Oh, I love it. I love the. I kind of wish more of the official TF2 maps were themed in such a way. Uh, I know there's like that. Actually, don't even know if it is official or not. That's how long it's been. But the excuse me, don't hit me. Fine, hit me.
Where's the shoe? Are you heavy?
Oh no no no! I
No,
was
that's
it was
someone
somebody
else.
else.
Yeah,
It was
someone else
someone else.
entirely.
I just like to yell at people.
That's fair enough.
Um, I even lost what I was talking about. But
No idea. I
uh,
I might be wrong, but I think that this map made it into the game officially. However, it's made it in with a variant called uh, Laughter, um, where it's gone from being a slaughterhouse to being a fun fair.
oh, that's awesome.
So it
Oh,
wasn't.
slaughter, laughter. That's
Yeah,
funny.
you can't have slaughter without laughter. So they say. Oh, that's not the right weapon. Trying to reflect with a shotgun.
So
It's not
weird.
going to work. Um, so what are you working on at the moment? What's your greatest achievement? Obviously, with the TF2 stuff to one side, because that's clearly that goes beyond mere achievements and into worlds of
Fuck.
glory.
I'm not looking down. I'm not used to having to look down. Um,
Game is only down.
but so far, I would say I'm really proud of. Obviously I'm really proud of Brawl Stars. It's one of
Yeah.
the bigger things I've had to do. Um, and it's also huge. I think comparatively to everything else I've done, it's got one of the biggest fan bases. Um, but also, I'm really proud of, and I hadn't known this at the time, but I was in Mech Warriors 5 Mercenaries,
Oh
which
yeah,
came out recently. I,
Lieutenant Zawov or something.
yeah, one of the not just one of the mech
It's,
warriors himself, but also one of the big bads at the end of a mission.
oh really?
Yeah, it was like I guess there was like history between her and I keep missing that. Um Oh, the readability on that. Okay, it's probably perfectly fine and it's a problem with me. Um, no, but yeah, I think there's like beef between her and the main character's father, and since the father, I think, presumably passed or not, I think it's like a ambiguous line. Um, Obviously, the son is just like, you killed my father, and then she like goes into her rant about like, well, he was a coward, and you're a coward too, and I'm gonna kill you.
Oh
So
wow.
that was really cool. And at the time, I didn't realize what Mech Warriors meant to a lot of people
Yeah.
or what it was. But after I casually mentioned it to my group of friends, they were like, "Oh, what are you working on now?" And I was like, "Oh, this game is gonna come out. It looks like a fighter pilots and stuff. It's called Mech Warriors." And they were like, "What? They're making a new one of that, and you're in it? Like
That
what?"
is awesome.
And I was shocked and I had to look into it, and apparently like wow, there were people who were waiting on this and were excited for it, and streamers who were just like that was their whole life.
Yeah.
um and I was just so honored to even be a part of that in any way. So I think that's made me feel recently the most accomplished so far, is that I can be a part of this legacy that I think is like, I think 15 years or something, definitely like a decade or more of people waiting on this and feeling like, yeah, this is my game. I needed this for so many years, and that felt amazing.
Yeah.
So I think that went alongside Brawl Stars because of how far it's reached.
Oh. Okay. Another death. Another day. Another death.
What's new?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Here's me thinking I'm better than all of this. I think you'll find that we probably look at the stats and you probably got more kills than I have. Perhaps
No.
not. Close, close. Let me go scout for a moment. See if we can balance this out again. So, if you could have been, or perhaps assuming the world continues the way it has in the past and everything gets a sequel, if you could have been in any game, and so far have not, what would you dearly hope to be in?
Any game. I feel like there's a couple. One of my goals eventually is to be in a fighter. Definitely one of my favorite fighters. One of my favorite fighters is Tekken and Soul Calibur. Just basically that Namco kind of wonderfulness that they're known for. I love those two games. I'm not looking to be on their roster, but something in that vein where I can feel really proud of like someone saying I main that, and that would be awesome. But I think beyond that, I'm still holding out for that Left 4 Dead 3. I love Left 4 Dead so much, more than I think the people who play with me realize, because they'll be in group chat playing with me and having a high all time and just dicking around, and I'll be like, Boomer, charger over there. I'll be so into it. But I would often fantasize about, like, oh, what happens if they come out with a 3? Where would it take place? What would even be the conflict? What new maps would there be? What new infected would there be? And what new survivors would there be? And fantasize like, oh, would one be like a cop? Would there be like someone who's got a medical background? Would there what poor schmo who's not used to anything zombie related would be involved? Would it be like a gas pump attendant? And it's definitely a game that I've put so much thought into in my off time that, like, oh, wouldn't it be like my dream game, like, would be 3. And I know they're making Back for Blood. I think it's Turtle Rock is the name of the developer.
Right.
They're making, or at least they were making Back for Blood. I don't even know now what stage they would be at in development, which is supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. They also made some other game that did not do well. And I don't know the name because I don't pay attention to failures like that when it's something I care about. But definitely, if I could be a survivor in a Left 4 Dead sequel, that would probably be the pinnacle of just like, yes, I am never putting this game down, and I am boasting this every which way I go, no matter where I go.
So you'd have to be a survivor then. You couldn't be one of the infected.
You know what? That's just as good. I mean, of course, I'd want whatever gives me a lot of lines so I could have fun with it, but I could make zombie noises for, an hour and a half.
I mean, if you're going to get paid for it. That would be kind of cool. So what would be, I don't know, I want to flip this, given that a large portion of your, I'm assuming a large portion of your current workflow is dependent on adverts. What's your dream advert?
Ooh, that's interesting. I guess I never really stopped to think about it, but probably something
luxury good or soap?
I'm not too big into. I actually worked for a beauty and lifestyle PR agency back in the day, so I feel like I've had my fill with those kind of that kind of promotion, and it all feels very like hollow in some way. I don't know. Not to. That's in no way disrespect of anyone who works in that. I just feel like I would be bored personally. But if it was something fun like I don't know, like, oh, there's this brand new electronic good coming out that, oh, you can do this with it and that with it.
Yeah.
Or even something national for a brand that was just like, I guess Dollar Shave Club had like these really fun adverts where they were just really in your face and unapologetic, and I would definitely want to do something edgy like that. So I could just be the cool girl talking about like, oh yeah, you still using that old game box? Well, fuck you.
Right, okay. Brutal, but yeah, sure.
Something a little unexpected would be fun. I guess that's not quite an answer.
Something unexpected. I mean, it's an answer. Oh, let me cap this point. Eight times capping point. That should be. We've got this. Oh, gonna die. Are we now on the same team? I don't feel.
No. Oh wait. No.
No,
Nope,
we're
still no.
definitely not on the same team anymore. Oof! I ran into that. Did I run into your? No, you got a quid on me.
No.
That's fine. That's fine. Any desire, I suppose, the thing to get into acting proper. Let me make it probably say that in a way it doesn't sound so condescending.
Voiceover
but
is
yeah,
acting.
obviously, but any desire to do the acting thing where it's more than just your voice? That's
on camera stuff.
That's the one.
You know, I
Thank you for digging me out of that trench, by the way. That was.
Honestly, I would be fine with it. Extra work. I know I have a friend or two who do like extras in LA, and I have no real desire to have people see me. It's never really been something I was huge on. I was in theater in school. Whoa, no thank you. And as fun as that was, it wasn't being on camera wasn't the main thing for me, or
Right.
being in the public eye. Like, oh wow, everyone's seeing me sing "The Gods Love Nubia" for our Aida play. That's I don't care. But if I can take some script and translate it, like something that doesn't have a person that you can ascribe any characteristics to it, that's kind of the fun of it for me, is taking something that doesn't have a person behind it that you know who they are. You don't know if this is an old one, necessarily a middle-aged woman, a white woman, what have you. But they're conveying something to you in a way that everyone can relate to. That's kind of where the bread and butter for me is. It's just like, isn't that fun? Isn't that like the challenge? So it would be cool, but I don't look for it. Maybe I should. I should probably challenge myself more.
Oh, I can't hear this shit. Let's see if I can survive this. No, I can't. Definitely Spite is not my class, so I'm going to change back to something that is going to make the tables a little bit more fair for my team. On classing. Is that a line from anything that I know?
No. Okay. Oh.
Do you keep like, because I know writers and people who like create stuff. Well, again, I'm not deliberately trying to. But like people will keep notepads filled with thoughts and suggestions and ideas of. Do you ever find yourself saying things and thinking that would be a great line for X character, or I need to use that thing there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've often. Just the other day, I was actually in the living room with my husband, and I was thinking about, because I also just sort of write a short story with him on the side just for fun, and because I try to come at it from an actor's perspective of like, well, let me get into the heart and mind of this character and see how this would be written. I leaned my neck back against the couch, and I apparently, without thinking, made this face that was just like, "Are you okay?" He had to stop and ask. He stopped what he was doing, and he asked me like, "Are you in pain?" And I'm like, "What?" I didn't even realize I was making the face, but I was going through a scene in my head of how, this battler, this warrior person would interact with this adversary.
Wow.
And I apparently made such a face that he was just like, "Are you hurt?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about what to write next." And he's like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So often I will be either mouthing something to myself
Yeah.
if I know I have a script coming up and I'm practicing beforehand. I'll be like, "How is this set?" And I'll just mouth it in the street. I'll maybe say it out loud, even if I'm not by myself. And if they think I'm crazy, then hey, they think I'm crazy. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
work to do. So, but I do keep sort of a vocal notebook in a way. It doesn't. I don't record it, and maybe that would be a good idea. The way people used to do with little tape recorders
The
when they had
dictaphones and
ideas.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Old school.
mean, it never. Yeah, but just having done it once feels like it works out a muscle in me that I don't typically get to use. So I do, yeah, and it's fun.
I mean, one of the obvious questions that I'm desperately trying to avoid asking, but realistically, I can't go an entire interview without, is in some way, I guess, related to this, which would be sort of how do you transition the desire to be a voice actor, artist,
Yeah, I mean,
into
it depends on how you like
into
it.
a
Whoa.
reality?
Okay, snipers.
Yeah, snipers. They're a thing. Is that your answer, snipers, or?
No, no. No, I have this sniper positioned outside my house, and I make sure that he keeps me in line.
That's.
And if
I'm
I
sure
ever
that's a
look like I'm
comedy sketch.
slacking,
Yeah.
if I'm ever slacking, he's just like, little red dot.
Yep.
But no, oh yeah,
External
I expect it
motivators.
as
Yep.
much. It's something everyone wants to ask because they see something. I mean, they see something they want to do, and who doesn't want to have an actionable plan? But the answer I invariably end up having to give is that it varies. There are set things you should do. Thank you, Spy. There are set things you should do to maintain a professional appearance, and in general, what you would do to have anyone want to work with you in an office, anywhere. And you need to be polite and congenial, but
Have a
when it
plan to
comes.
kill everybody you meet.
Why does it keep going back to snipers?
It always does.
But the path is different for everybody because there are people who are in. They figure, well, I want to do musical theater, and I'm going to take all these music classes. I'm going to join this play and do that musical, and because they're in that world, they have friends who are simply a part of that and would be in the vicinity of directors, of writers, of people who create, who one day are just like, does anyone have an actor friend who could probably do this voiceover for me? And it's so happenstance. You don't plan it, it just happens. Other people, they specifically look for that. They take specific, oh, I want to do voiceover classes. I want to move to California. I want to make sure all of this, all my ducks are in a row. And maybe they're plugging away at a bunch of private projects for ages before anybody even, like, maybe their teacher in that voiceover class suggests them to somebody they know. So a lot of it is preparation and know-how and just studying and acting. But then a good percentage of it, and a larger percentage than most people want to admit, is luck. Because when you say, oh, you just got to be lucky, that's not a answer anybody wants to hear. They want to be able to have a plan. They want to be able to achieve it themselves. They don't want to feel like, well, you're just gatekeeping the secret. And there's not really a secret. It's just like either you do a project and you keep doing more projects after that, or you do the one project and that's as far as you get, or you never see anything until you start making opportunities for yourself. So it's varied, but definitely what helps is knowing how to act, because so many people go into it thinking, well, I have a funny voice and I have a sexy voice, or I can do so many impressions. And they feel like that's all there is. But really, at the end of the day, it's being a professional in the workplace and knowing how to act, even if it's on camera, even if it's,
and by knowing how to act, you don't necessarily mean knowing how to be an actor, but you mean knowing how to be around other people.
Oh, both, definitely both. Know how to act and know how to act. I mean, there are plenty of people in voiceover who they don't get their start in acting. They might have gotten a start because somebody needed this. Like a lot of video games from back in the early 90s and late 80s were like that, where it wasn't because, oh, let's find, and you'll hear the quality sometimes. It wasn't let's find this wonderful actor. It was, shit, is Jim the programmer doing anything right now? Can
Yeah.
he come in here for a second and record this?
Well, and that's the classic one with Claptrap, where it was voiced by one of the developers because
Exactly.
they did a funny voice.
Exactly. And if they choose to pursue it after that, then it can become a thing. It's all about the potential that is shown to you and what you do with it. Because you could just be, you don't necessarily even have to be an actor. Maybe you're a developer, or you're just any kind of worker in any field, and see an opportunity. You take it, but then what you do with the opportunity afterward, do you hone your craft? Do you actually go out and take acting classes so you can be marketable to more people?
Yeah.
Do you learn what advertisers are doing so that you can keep up with the competition? Do you keep up with the latest video games or movies or things like that? It all depends on what you do with it after the first break presents itself. And nobody is promised a break for sure.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, I took so many classes, why didn't I become a voice actor? There are no promises. You just have to work with what you're given.
you literally you're hoping for a break, but once you've got it, it's what you do with it.
Exactly. You're waiting, or you're searching rather for the opportunities, but then you also have to make sure you're prepared for what those opportunities are. Like if you get the opportunity and you're not prepared, then it might not go anywhere. So it's important to take your classes, to practice every day, warm up, audition for everything that you can get your hands on, even if it's not something, well, this isn't a video game, I don't want to do this is boring. Tough nuggets. You should probably do it anyway so that you get experience. You can say, well, I did this advert for a dentist's office. Like, so yeah, it's boring, but it's something you can say you did, and it gives you a perspective on something that maybe not everyone has. Maybe if you were, like, let's say, a legal clerk and you need to do an advert, or realistically portray. I keep missing those gears. Woo!
It's such a random thing to say, though. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, even your everyday life can give you perspectives and edges you didn't even realize you had. So, like, if you had to do a legal advert or something, but you spent time as a law clerk, you could come at it, even if it's just knowing how something is pronounced better than some other actor might.
Right.
It can give you that edge when people have to sit down and listen to hundreds of auditions every day. You gotta be able to show that you were worth them listening to 99 of them just to get to you.
Yeah. That's really solid advice. I think it's something that people can live by, as opposed to like a one-off kind of like I know, wear suntan kind of thing. That's actually valuable information. I kind of mentioned this before with regards to the yelps and the expletions that you've been muttering. Do you find yourself not necessarily becoming the character that you're being asked to portray, but failing to leave it alone, failing to escape the character? Do you sort of get locked in at any stage and can't remove yourself from speaking in a funny accent or whatever it is that makes up the character that you're currently working on?
That makes me smile because I absolutely have that problem, and it carries over to, I mean, maybe not that specific problem, but I have a variant of that problem where I am so in this certain mode that, let's say I have to step out and live my life after I'm done with working. I'll, let's say, go to a supermarket, and maybe my cashier or something has an interesting accent. Maybe they're from the UK, or they're, they're Asian or whatever. I'm not thinking about doing this. I truly am not. But sometimes I will start to match their accent as they're talking. I don't know why I do it. Sort of like a chameleon thing, where sometimes I'll slip into it. when they're talking to me, and I don't know why. I feel like it's the rudest thing in the world. I feel like they might think that I'm making fun of them, or like, oh, like, ha ha ha, you have a funny accent. It'll just happen if I'm talking to them long enough. Like if, you know, I'm surprised it hasn't happened with me playing with you right now. But I probably because I'm so preoccupied with the game, but I don't do it as much now.
It is
but
my
it used
safety net, just in case.
I find myself doing that, and I think it's because when I started, so much of what I was trying to do with voiceover practice was, well, how do certain people say certain things?
Yeah.
Why do they say them like that? And how can I emulate that if I even can? What does it take to emulate that? Is it a change in pacing? Is it a change in diction? And it was fascinating to me. So that is why I'll listen to accents, I'll listen to regional dialects, and I'll be like, that's so cool. And I think subconsciously I'll just slip into it like, man, that's got to be so cool, because talking in your own way around the people that you live with day in day out can be dull, I guess, for the brain. It's just like, well, that's quotidian, that's every day. But you're suddenly presented with something new and you're just like, ooh, and your brain just wants to eat it up. Like, that's so fascinating.
It's like a chef experiencing a new flavor. You want to find out why is that sweet or why is that sour? What is it that kind of grasps you and grips you and brings you into it?
Absolutely. And I don't do it as much now, thank God, but I've found myself frustrated sometimes on the phone where, like, I'll have a southern representative or something from Kentucky or whatever, and I'll just be matching them after we're talking for some time to the point where, like, they'll think that I'm actually native to wherever they're from, and we'll get on great, and then I'll get off the phone call and I'll be like, oh, why did I do that? That was so stupid. That was basically lying to that person.
Yeah, I kind of I've had you for an hour and a half, and I promised I'd only have you for like more than an hour and less than two.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of the time that I've got for you. I do want to ask, and it is super relevant because Rick May, the voice actor for the Soldier and a number of other roles that he's famous for, has sadly passed. I mean, is there anyone that you would have loved to have worked with, or regardless of whether or not they're living or dead? I almost said currently dead. That's an unfortunate way of phrasing that. Is there anyone that you would sort of hold in such high acclaim that you haven't had the chance to work with, perhaps, or you have worked with and would love to work with again?
Oh, definitely. It's funny because I tell people this a lot where, like, I don't get the awe of celebrity. Like when people are like, ooh, that's Nicki Minaj. Oh, stars in my...
Yeah.
I don't get it necessarily because even as a child, I never really had a idolization as part of my personality. I would think, ooh, cool, so-and-so from that TV show is doing a signing, but it never struck me as like, I must meet them. I must touch them. I don't know why, but that's just how I've always been. But that did change at some point when I started really being passionate about certain things, and specifically voiceover. I was inspired from an early age, but one of the biggest inspirations was Jim Cummings and the work he did for so many cartoons in the 90s, along with Tom Kenny. But I was so much raised by TV as a child that cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, and Disney movies were always my closest friends. I was an only child, so I didn't have siblings to pal around with, and it was an older neighborhood. So I also didn't have like neighbor kids to run around with, and I was kind of sheltered. So I wasn't really hold on. Okay. I was a little sheltered, so I wasn't always like allowed to run about outdoors, and because it was sort of a dicey neighborhood, you know, you didn't want to let your kids out late or anything. So really all I had was television movies, things of that nature when I was getting bored, like truly, truly bored. So they were always with me, cheering me up, and those voices become familiar. Okay.
So I just had to go and kill someone then.
No, that's fine.
I'm just trying to think. Is Jim Cummings did Winnie the Pooh, didn't he?
Yes, he did Winnie the Pooh, Darkwing Duck, Cat from Cat Dog. The list is just so
Oh my
endless.
god.
He's a giant in the voiceover, and not even just to work with, but if I could even, he's one of the only voice actor idols of mine that I haven't met yet. At a
Yeah.
signing, out of just happenstance. So just to meet him would be wonderful, but to actually be on the same project, even if I was like an extra,
Yeah.
like a guard 2, but I could say
yeah, yeah. Lift
yeah,
elevator
but
4, that kind of thing. Like, just the most non-essential human being, but being part of the same project.
yeah, that would be just amazing.
Awesome. I mean, I
Uh,
certainly had the same feeling when I met Robin Walker, where
ooh,
where like I generally, I mean, I don't know whether it's because I live in London or have lived here for such a long time, but I've seen what other people would class as being celebrities,
yeah,
sort of wandering around the streets of London, and so they exist for me, but they're just humans.
exactly.
They've had some measure of success in whatever thing that they wanted to do, but it's not something that I'm in any way vaguely interested in. So well done, but not my bag. But then
Exactly.
meeting someone who is the responsible for creating that one game that I love was ridiculous. Just inconceivable that he exists as a human and breathes the same air that I do, and I was sat in the same room talking to him, actual conversation. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what's going on in my life? How did I get to this point? This is extraordinary. But anyone else meeting him on the street would have no concept of who he was.
Exactly.
And in fact, I remember going to PAX. The excuse for being there was that PAX PAX West was going on in Seattle, and
Right.
so we were there for that. But while we're in the neighbourhood, gonna drop in and see Valve.
Right. Yeah.
As you do, like the most natural and normal thing in the world, as if. But I remember talking to some guy who was cosplaying as a heavy, doing a fantastic job of it.
Lovely.
And someone had approached him and given him a TF2 T-shirt. Gone, I love your thing. I love it's excellent cosplay. Here's a TF2 T-shirt, and he's recounting the story. And so I described Robin Walker to him. Is he like this high, curly hair, speaks in a slightly Australian accent? He goes, yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, that's the person who created the game, and you could see like almost a flock sweat immediately appear on his forehead. Like he has suddenly met his hero but not recognized him. And I guess that's something that sort of is unique to game developers, certainly at the time, because nobody knew who they were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Their appearance is irrelevant to the game itself.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That's so fun.
Tricky Scout. See if I can navigate this without dying.
Whoop. Why am I up here? Okay.
Yep. Got it. All good. All good. Gonna take out this med. Be the hero.
Be that hero.
Be the hero that the game deserves. Okay. Well, with the exception of TF2 and this game that we're currently playing, I'm all out of questions.
Oh, okay.
What, with the exception of this question, what question didn't I ask you? What were you expecting me to ask, and I never got round to?
Ooh. That's an interesting question.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Best for last.
I guess you kind of covered what I anticipated, which is like, what are you doing now? What does the game mean to you? Or I guess that's one. What does the game mean to me? I guess in a certain way, if we're gonna get more philosophical than
Sure.
than
We can
fat
get
than But other than that, no, you've been wonderful.
that. Is it too late to ask you what this game means to you?
Oh no, never, never.
Never.
I mean, the fact that I didn't outright say like, play that game while you interview me, hell no, never going back.
No, please don't. No, I can't do that.
No, what are you doing? You're trying to put me into PTSD or something? Or... No, never. But I am, even now as I'm warming up on my soldier again,
Yeah.
it means so much that this is basically the first game, this first PC game that I was ever big on. Until then, video games were totally banned in my house growing up.
Oh,
I wasn't
really?
allowed to, yeah. I wasn't allowed to have consoles, handhelds, anything. And my only exposure to video games was a little sort of Chuck E. Cheese-esque play area in the mall that had an arcade in it too. And
Yep.
my mom's rule was no video games in the house, or none of that, none of that. My dad was just sort of like, oh, what, you want to go to that arcade? Yeah, I'll take you. And
Nice.
totally undermining my mom, not even realizing that was cool. And even if he did know that that was a rule, he'd be like, why? Um, so,
Typical.
oh, excuse me. Hi, Pyro. So definitely, my first shooter and my first PC game that I was ever really fanatical about, really tried to be good at, tried to have fun, made friends through. It unlocked a whole world of voiceover opportunities for me, of creative opportunities for me, where people were making so many projects that they wanted to share with me. And I felt so honored to be part of that. I went to conventions. One of the first cosplays I ever did was Scout's mom. I did that along with my husband. And it's something that
Wow.
he and I bonded over so well. Like, he was
Wait,
Spy
wait, wait.
and I was Scout's mom.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if he was Scout, that would have been quite
Oh, no.
weird.
No, he was actually too tall to even be a spy, but we did it anyway, so who cares? But something that we bonded so genuinely over, and I'm after I was introduced to it, I somehow made it my own. Oops, that's death. So it definitely unlocked a lot of things for me creatively that I didn't even realize I was capable of. I didn't realize I could be a gamer.
Yeah.
My friend had to sneak me his fat PS2 so that I could play things like the third Prince of Persia game and Beast, Bloody Roar, things like that. And I always thought I'd be playing it in the shadows till I got a hold of, I was introduced to this, and I'm like, oh, I can play with other people online? And it was phenomenal. So this is always going to be one of my first loves.
It's both a thing
Really?
and something you're allowed to do and encouraged to do, I suppose, in a way. That
Yeah.
TF2 is no good if you're only playing it on your own.
Oh, of course not. That's lame.
Yeah, that's TR Walkway.
Oh. But yeah, and I really I'm still over here rubbing my hands waiting for that comic. So there's got to be something about it that keeps me going.
Yeah, good point. The comic, the next or the final comic book, which
Yeah.
we have been promised in very Valve-esque way. Never promise something until it's actually arrived, because then
Right.
someone will just get disappointed that it hasn't currently arrived, even if it's just in an interview. Yeah. So I guess that there is definitely more to Team Fortress 2 in the future, and hopefully you stick around long enough to enjoy it.
I hope to now. I really do. This is
Survive
starting to bring back
COVID
good
and
memories.
yeah. It's been wonderful playing with you. Oh, I don't want to die here.
No, you won't. You might.
I might.
Ooh!
Oh,
Ooh.
good kill, good kill.
That's a powerful goblin.
Don't know what that is about. Yes, that is a powerful
That's
goblin.
his name.
Oh, Goblin the Demo Man.
Oh, the heavy
Powerful
that killed me
goblin.
was-
Oh, I see. That is a powerful goblin. Okay. I thought you were quoting from a different game that I was unaware of, but no, you were just talking about this game. Which
No,
seems
no.
about right.
I'm not that clever. Oop, oop. Ah.
Oof, oof. Lost at the face. Was not expecting that. I think I jumped into that headshot, which is even worse. Makes me feel even smaller. There's
Nothing smaller than a single-digit kill count, which is more than I thought I'd get, so...
Oh, you got a kill? That's what matters.
I got
There's
6 kills, excuse me. Ow! Help me. Help me. Be nice. Oh, yay. Fuck.
I just got killed by a powerful goblin again.
Yay.
We're gonna.
He's
I'm
too
not sure.
powerful.
I'm not sure we can hold this off for like the 5 minutes and 20 seconds required.
Oh, boo. Says you.
But I've just seen a spy jump into the pit, so that was unfortunate. Maybe we can do this. Maybe we can do this. Focus on the game, and not let those sneaky spies get us down. I'm getting the message that tells me I'm getting a hit, but I can't see anything or anyone. So...
Maybe their computer is bad. And they're teleporting all over.
Oh, I'm WM1ing and it's not enough. If the classic WM1 doesn't work, then we're all doomed. Need to get rid of that spy upstairs.
How did I... Oh, he dropped. Oh.
Right, in the closing 4 minutes and 20 seconds that we've got to hold this, is there anyone you or anywhere that you should hope to direct people towards?
Sorry. Yes, they can definitely find me on Twitter, still under DustyOldRoses. A lot of my social media is still DustyOldRoses, just out of nostalgia, and takes too much trouble to try and rename yourself, really. So,
Yeah.
except for Instagram, which is DustyOldRoses official, because somebody beat me to it.
No!
I know, right?
Inconceivable! That's a cheat.
It's ridiculous. And then my website for business inquiries and the like, and just to keep up with what I'm doing, is also DustyOldRoses.com. So they can always find me there.
Awesome. And last thing, I think, and I probably should have done this a long time ago, but it's too late now. We have the time that we have. Who is this week's Player of the Week? Someone who's done something exceptional within the world of Team Fortress 2, or just within your world of Team Fortress 2, that you would like to thank by giving them a hat. Or the hats, the Critscast Lo-Fi Longwave.
Oh, wow.
Who do you nominate for this exalted position?
Oh, geez.
I definitely should have told you about this about 4 months ago.
I'm a little bit of pressure.
You've got 2.5
I know I
minutes.
love mine. Why am I not wearing mine? Oh my god. I'm such a loser. I haven't been wearing mine this whole time. Jeez. And within the TF2 community?
Anyone. I mean, so long as they can wear a hat, even if they can't. We've awarded it to people who've never heard of this game before, so anyone is appropriate.
Aw, jeez. Let me see if I can get this kill, and hopefully by then I'll drum up an answer.
Of all of your friends, who is your best? Is basically the question. Who do you like the
Aw.
most?
Who do I like them? I like so many people. Well, you know what? I wish I could nominate it to be just as conceptually go to all of the or any TF2 fans who are working the front lines medically and
Wow.
in terms of infrastructure, because it's been a hell of a couple months, and I have one or two friends who are in social work and the medical field. So I wish I can think of someone specific who's a huge TF2 fan, who is also either, working as a nurse or someone who has to deal with this COVID mess. But I don't. So if there's any way for me to just say that it's for them, that would be great. But I don't have any one person. That just seems, I don't know.
That's fine.
That's a
Do you
weird
know what?
answer.
I thought you were just going to give it to your husband. But no,
Oh,
you went with the conceptual idea of people who play TF2 and are doing good things on the front line for COVID.
I'm
So,
sorry.
so your husband misses out on an opportunity to walk away with a vintage lo-fi long wave, but I guess that's acceptable. That's
No,
just the way it's gotta be.
I'm a
Um,
bad spouse.
you are a bad human being. But nonetheless, I'm gonna play the music, and we can maybe have a conversation afterwards and see if we can sort him out anyway. So congratulations to all the awesome people. You are now the conceptual players of the week.
Sorry.
Woo, yeah! Start the freaking party!
And with that, I think it is time to say good night, goodbye, good morning, good afternoon. I have no idea when people are going to be watching this, but most importantly, thank you very much to DustyOldRoses for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful, and I might end up playing this again for all I know.
Yes, it works. And thank you to everyone who's decided to tune in to watch us play the games. And we hope that you come back to Team Fortress 2 if you've missed it, or stay with Team Fortress 2 if you're still here after many, many, many wonderful years of Team Fortress 2. But most importantly, to Valve, if you've got an update in the wings, release it! Let it fly! Let it be free!
Release them now.
No!
Please? Maybe you haven't been asking please.
Maybe we haven't. I don't recall the last time I said please to Valve, so please, Valve. And on that note, we shall close the show.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Kritzcast.
GG, everyone. Take care.
GG.
Are you sure you want to end your stream? Wait. Just watched Female Scout Scream Fortress 2013 update. Would actually be so fucking cool. Oh yeah, that's fine.